You woke up, you're sitting in a conference room, lawyers on both sides, you're 24 years old, and three of your former classmates, people you used to eat with, code with, people who trusted you, are sitting across the table, saying you stole their idea. Not metaphorically stole, actually stole. And the thing is, they might be right. This is the story of Mark Zuckerberg, and here's what nobody tells you about Mark Zuckerberg's story. It doesn't start with genius. It starts with him being kind of an asshole. Yes, you heard me correctly. My friend said this video wouldn't get me many subscribers. Let's prove him wrong. Subscribe and let's keep going. Fall 2003. Harvard. Mark's a sophomore. Decent programmer. Nothing legendary yet. And he's bored. So he does what bored programmers with too much time do. He builds something stupid. Face mash. He hacks into Harvard's student databases, pulls photos of female students without permission, and creates a website where people can compare who's hotter, one girl versus another. Click left or right. That's it. The site crashes Harvard's network in 4 hours because so many people are using it. 22,000 photo views, 400 visitors in the first few minutes, and Harvard shuts it down. Fast. Mark gets dragged in front of the administrative board. They're talking about expulsion. His reputation on campus, already a little weird, a little socially off, is now openly toxic. Female students are furious. The Crimson, Harvard's newspaper, runs a piece basically calling him a creep. He writes an apology. It's not good. It reads like someone who doesn't really understand why people are upset, just that they are. And here's the uncomfortable part. This moment doesn't teach him to stop. It teaches him that people will use anything you build, no matter how ethically questionable, as long as it's interesting. That's the lesson he actually learns. A few weeks later, three guys approach him. Cameron Winklevoss, Tyler Winklevoss, and Divya Narendra. They're working on this idea called Harvard Connection, later renamed Connect You, a social network for Harvard students. They need a programmer. Mark says yes. He works on it, sort of. He's responding to emails, showing up to meetings, but privately, he's already building something else, his own version, and he's not telling them. January 2004, Mark launches the Facebook. 6 days after he tells the Winklevoss twins he's still working on their project, the site goes live. Harvard students only. You need a harvard.edu email to join. Within 24 hours, over 1,000 people sign up. Within a month, half the undergrad population is on it. The Winklevoss twins find out. They're pissed. They claim he stole their idea, strung them along, then launched his own version while pretending to help them. They take it to Harvard's president, Larry Summers. Summers basically dismisses them. He's not interested in refereeing a dorm room dispute, so they sue, and that lawsuit will follow Mark for years. But here's the thing most people miss. Mark doesn't stop. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't even seem that bothered, whether it's arrogance, or clarity, or just emotional detachment. He acts like the lawsuit is noise. He's already moving. February 2004, Mark expands the Facebook to Stanford, Columbia, Yale, then more schools. The growth is fast, not viral, just consistent. Kids like it. It's clean, simple. You can see who's in your classes, he's single, who's at which party. He's running this out of his dorm room with his roommate Dustin Moskovitz and his friend Chris Hughes. Eduardo Saverin is handling the business side. Money, ads, structure. They're all kids. No one knows what they're doing. Mark drops out of Harvard at the end of his sophomore year. No big announcement, no press. He just leaves. Moves to Palo Alto. Rents a house on the Jennifer Way with Dustin and a few others. They work all day. The house is a mess. Pizza boxes, energy drinks, computers everywhere. People think dropping out of Harvard to work on a website was some bold, visionary move. It wasn't. Mark didn't know if it would work. He didn't have a grand plan. He just thought the site was growing fast enough that he should probably focus on it full time. That's it. No revelation, no calling, just meth. Summer 2004, Sean Parker shows up. If you don't know who Sean Parker is, he co-founded Napster. He's older, connected, kind of chaotic. He sees what Mark is building and immediately gets it. Sean introduces Mark to investors, explains how Silicon Valley works, teaches him not to sell too early, not to give up control. Sean becomes president of Facebook, and this is where Eduardo starts getting pushed out. Eduardo's in New York trying to sell ads. Mark and Sean are in California building product and raising money. The priorities are different. The communication breaks down. Mark thinks Eduardo isn't moving fast enough. Eduardo thinks Mark is freezing him out. In the fall of 2004, Mark dilutes Eduardo's shares, reduces his stake in the company from around 30% to less than 10%. Doesn't tell him clearly, just does it. Eduardo finds out later. He's furious. He feels betrayed. They were friends, roommates. Eduardo was the one who gave Mark the initial money to build the site. Eduardo sues. Another lawsuit. Another former friend saying Mark screwed them over. And here's the uncomfortable thing. Mark doesn't seem to lose sleep sleep over it. You can say he's cold. You can say he's ruthless. You can see he's on the spectrum and doesn't process relationships like other people. All of that's been said. But what's documented is this. He keeps building. By 2005, Facebook has 5 million users. It's still college only. Mark gets offers to sell. Big offers. Viacom offers $75 million. He says no. Yahoo offers $1 billion in 2006. He's 22 years old. $1 billion. He says no. His investors are furious. His board is furious. People think he's insane. But Mark has this idea that Facebook isn't finished yet. That if he sells now, whoever buys it will ruin it. He's not sentimental. He just believes the thing he's building is worth more than the number in front of him. That's not confidence. That's math. He looks at the growth rate and thinks, this doesn't stop at $1 billion. 2006. Facebook opens to everyone, not just college students. Anyone over 13 with an email. The growth explodes. 12 million users by the end of the year. Then the newsfeed launches, September 2006. Suddenly, instead of manually checking your friends' pages, their updates come to you, automatically. In a feed, people lose their minds, not in a good way. Students launch protests. Students Against Facebook newsfeed becomes one of the biggest groups on the site. People feel like their privacy is being violated, like Facebook is watching them. Mark doesn't pull it back. He tweaks some settings, adds privacy controls, but he keeps the feature because the data shows people are using it. They're complaining, but they're also spending more time on the site than ever before. That's the pattern. People hate changes, then they adapt, then they forget they ever hated it. Mark is learning that outrage doesn't matter, usage does. By 2007, Facebook is valued at $15 billion. Microsoft buys a small stake. Mark is 23 years old and on paper worth billions, but it's not liquid, it's shares. He can't spend it. He's still living in a rented apartment, still wears the same hoodie and sandals. He's on the cover of magazines, youngest billionaire, wonderkind, the next Steve Jobs, but he's also awkward in interviews. He sweats, he stutters, he gives answers that sound robotic. People start calling him a sociopath. He doesn't emote right. He doesn't perform emotion the way people expect. When he's asked about the lawsuits, about Eduardo, about the Winklevoss twins, he gives flat answers. No remorse, no charm, just facts. That makes people uncomfortable because we expect creators to be either humble or charismatic. Mark is neither. He's just relentlessly focused, and people don't know what to do with that. 2008, Eduardo's lawsuit settles. The terms are confidential, but Eduardo gets his name back on the company masthead as co-founder. He gets an undisclosed amount of money. They don't speak. The Winklevoss lawsuit settles in 2008. $1 million, a mix of cash and Facebook shares. The twins later claim they were misled about the value of the shares. They try to reopen the case. They lose. Years later, those shares are worth hundreds of millions, maybe over $1 billion. They're rich because of the settlement, but they'll spend the rest of their lives known as the guys who say Mark Zuckerberg screwed them. Whether he did or not, history doesn't care. Facebook is too big now. By 2012, Facebook has 1 billion users. It goes public. The IPO is messy. The stock drops immediately. Investors panic. People say the company is overvalued, that social media is a fad, that Mark got lucky and it's all about to collapse. Mark barely reacts. He's already thinking 5 years ahead. Mobile, acquisitions, dominance. 2012, Instagram. Facebook buys it for $1 billion. People think Mark overpaid. Instagram has 30 million users and no revenue. $1 billion. Today, Instagram is worth over $100 billion. 2014, WhatsApp. Facebook buys it for $19 billion. People think he's lost his mind. WhatsApp makes no money. $19 billion. Today, WhatsApp has over 2 billion users. Mark isn't gambling. He's eliminating competition before it becomes a threat. He's building a monopoly. And he's doing it while everyone is still calling him a nerd who got lucky. By 2020, Facebook is one of the most powerful companies in the world. It also might be one of the most hated. Election interference, data breaches, Cambridge Analytica, mental health concerns, teen suicide rates linked to Instagram, misinformation, genocide in Myanmar facilitated by Facebook's algorithm. Mark is called to testify before Congress. Multiple times. Multiple times. He sits there in a suit, robotically answering questions from senators who barely understand how the internet works. He's worth over $100 billion. He has more power than most governments. And he's still the same awkward kid who built a site to rank girls by hotness. The difference now is the consequences aren't just personal, they're global. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Mark Zuckerberg didn't win because he was the most ethical. He didn't win because he was the most likable. simple. He didn't even win because he was the smartest. He won because he was the most relentless. He looked at every relationship, every decision, every offer through one filter. Does this help Facebook grow? If it did, he did it. If it didn't, he didn't. That's not inspiration. That's just what happened. And the thing is, you already know people like this. You've worked with them, competed against them. Maybe you are one. People who optimize for the outcome, not the optics. Who don't stop when people get upset. Who survive lawsuits, bad press, public hatred, and just keep building. You don't have to like them, but you probably shouldn't underestimate them. Because while everyone else is performing emotion, they're moving. Mark Zuckerberg turned a dorm room project into an empire that reaches 3 billion people. He did it while getting sued by his friends, while the world debated whether he was a genius or a villain, or a daylight copycat, and he's still here, still running the company, still making decisions that affect billions of lives. You can argue about whether that's good, but you can't argue that it didn't happen. And maybe that's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes the person who wins isn't the one who deserved it most. Sometimes it's just the one who refused to stop. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like these.